Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada said that Bombay is his office, Mayapur is his place of worship, and Vrindavan is his home. So I'm here in Bombay, in his quarters, where he translated his books and managed his international society. And he said the main business in the Hare Krishna movement is distributing books. Therefore we have My Family Business. We have this wonderful book by Vijay Prabhu. And Srila Prabhupada, he said he wanted everybody to learn the art of book distribution. It's an art. And he said one of the arts is to make sure that everybody walks away undisturbed. People walk away with a good impression. So this book distribution is something that is very, very dear to Srila Prabhupada. And he wanted this transcendental business to expand. At one point he said he wanted the BTG to be bigger than Time magazine. And he wanted the BBT books to replace all the rubbish literatures. There's so many books, millions of books, but they just cause forgetfulness of Krishna. But Srila Prabhupada has kindly given us books that help us to remember Krishna, that help us to remember who we are. Nayad vichistitam parangharaya so jagat pavitam pragunitikarita tadvayasam tirtam asanti manaso nayantra hangsa niyamat yusiksaya. That literature which does not give description of the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the entire universe, are said by sages to be places of pilgrimage for crows. On the other hand, that literature which does give descriptions of the glories of the Lord are of another creation directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. So this is the result of people reading Srila Prabhupada's books. It creates a revolution in their hearts. Just today I was speaking to one young man here in Bombay. When he was 17, he wanted to learn English. So he thought he would just learn on his own, just by reading books and newspapers. But they thought better I'd read books because newspapers is all bad news. So he wanted to read something that would be inspirational. So one friend of his said, you know, Bhagvadgita is probably the most famous book in India. That would probably be a good book for you to read and learn English. So he said, yeah, okay. And this friend of his, he happened to have one of Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gitas. So many Bhagavad Gitas, so he had Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. And he said, here, you can have this. So he was reading 15 pages a day, Bhagavad Gita. And when he saw a word he didn't know, he would look it up. And this way he learned English. After 7 months, he finished the Bhagavad Gita. And he said, after I read the Bhagavad Gita, I was a different person. He said, before, I was introverted. But after reading the Bhagavad Gita, I became extroverted. And before, I was somewhat stressed out. After reading the Bhagavad Gita, I was free of stress. I was like, wow, this is an amazing book. So then somehow he got a Krishna book, and he read half the Krishna book, learning more English. He put it down, didn't read any of the books for 6 months, but he was feeling some stress. So then he thought, maybe I should start reading the book again. So he picked it up and started reading it more, and he became attracted. Then he went to college, and he wasn't reading the books very much. Sometimes he would read them. Then from undergrad, he went to IIT, graduated, worked for some time. He would read the books occasionally, but then he decided he wanted to learn more. So he found out about the ISKCON temple here in Bombay. And he came and 1 week after visiting the temple, he started chanting 16 rounds a day, and now he's a regular devotee here. So gradually there was a revolution in his heart. So this is what happens. It changes people's lives in a very positive way. And books change people's lives, especially Srila Prabhupada's books. We're distributing thousands, millions of books, and sometimes we hear, well, where's all the devotees coming from all these millions and millions of books being distributed? We may not see how people become devotees from reading these books. They may not become devotees in this lifetime, but we're planting seeds. They're getting an opportunity to engage in devotional service. Prabhupada said they touch the book, they benefit. They read a line, it could change their life. What to speak of a page, they read the whole book. It has an effect on their life we may not see. It's a subtle, gradual transformation sometimes. Sometimes it's very quick. Sometimes it's a gradual transformation. But whatever the case may be, this book distribution is extremely auspicious. Prabhupada wanted the book distribution to increase and increase and increase. There's so many literatures. Prabhupada wanted these books to replace the rubbish literatures. All these books, millions and millions of books, they don't help people remember Krishna. They're remembering Maya by reading all these books. But when people get books written by Srila Prabhupada, it gives them an opportunity to hear about Krishna, to become Krishna conscious. So Srila Prabhupada, he said this book distribution is a transcendental business. And by people getting books, they're getting an opportunity to hear about Krishna, and they're getting an opportunity to help the society. They're giving Lakshmi to help maintain the society. So they benefit, the society benefits. So Prabhupada wanted this society to increase and increase. And he actually said that this movement can't be stopped. It's too late. The books are out there. He said even if everybody leaves, even if everybody bloops, still this movement will continue on. And there's an interesting incident that happened in Russia. One man, he gave a friend of his a Science of Self-Realization. And he read this book and he was so impressed. And then he got some other books. And one of the books he mentioned, Prabhupada mentioned that this movement, this knowledge is so important that it should be distributed all over the world. Books should be printed and distributed all over the world. So this man, he was a businessman and he was successful, so he decided to print some of these books and distribute them. So he was printing them and distributing them in his city. He had never met a devotee. So he was distributing. People were taking and giving donations. Then one traveling Sankirtan team came to this town. And they were approaching people and they said, "Oh no, I already got one of these books." And the devotees were thinking, "Oh, there's some Sankirtan devotees here already." And they continued distributing. And then eventually they saw this person distributing books. So they went up to this man and said, "Oh, Hare Prabhu." And he said, "What's that? What's Hare Prabhu? What's that? You don't know Hare Prabhu? You're distributing books? You don't know Hare? What temple are you from?" "Temple? There's temples?" "Yeah, there's temples." "You're distributing books? And you don't know Hare Prabhu? You don't know about temples? How is this possible?" He said, "Well, a friend of mine, he gave me these books and they're so nice, and one of them it's mentioned that this knowledge should be distributed all over the world. So I thought, well, I like this, so I printed some books I'm distributing." And these devotees, they were shocked. The jaw just like, how is this possible? So here's the example. Here's a person, never met a devotee, never took prasadam, but he became a book distributor just by hearing, by reading Prabhupada's books. So this proves that this movement's going to continue on. I remember my Sankirtan leader, back in the 70s, he said, we should be so determined to distribute books that even if everybody leaves, we should get the books printed ourselves and distribute. This is the determination that we should have. And Prabhupada had this amazing determination. He wrote the books, he printed the books, and he was distributing the books. And all we have to do is go to the book room. It's so easy for us. Prabhupada did the real yajna, and he was elderly. Yeah. Most of us are young. One devotee told me recently, like some devotees are now in their 60s, 70s, and they said, well, I'm getting kind of old now. And as Bhaktacharya said, this movement began in the 70s. Prabhupada was in his 70s when this movement began. So, someone's still in their 60s, that's young. So, and even now there's devotees distributing books still in their 70s. And Prabhupada he wanted people to devote their lives to distributing this knowledge. You know, what are people devoting their lives for now, all over the world? Just to satisfy their senses. And for ourselves also, for millions of lifetimes, we've dedicated our life to satisfying our senses. So Prabhupada said, why not give this one life to Krishna? Why not just give this one life to Krishna, giving knowledge of Krishna to the people who have forgotten Krishna. So here in Prabhupada's office, I thought I would speak a little bit about book distribution, try to encourage more book distribution. The more we distribute books, the more Prabhupada is pleased, the more Krishna is pleased. Hare Krishna.